Thanks, everybody. Welcome to Build. I'm your host, Ricky Camilleri. What happens when a loved one gets famous? What happens when that loved one is 12 and you're in your 30s and struggling to get your life together? All that and more is mine for hilarity and surprising warmth in the new Comedy Central show, The Other Two, created by the incredibly talented Chris Kelly and Sarah Schneider. Let's take a look.
Give it up for Chase Dreams. There's a sexy new singer in town.
22 million views in just 3 days.
We're already calling him the next big white kid.
He's the cutest boy in the whole world.
He's 13, but an icon.
He's an artist.
He is everything.
Chase Dreams!
Chase Dreams!
So, Mom, does this kind of talent run in the family? You have other kids, right?
Hi, I'm Carrie Dubeck, and I'm reading for the role of man at party who smells fart.
Brooke, what are you doing?
I'm being classic Brooke. What else is classic Brooke?
She's hot. She's cool.
Yes.
She has always got deodorant on the outside of her clothing.
No. I don't know. I want to stop. We might not be the hot new twink or whatever, but all three of your kids are equally successful millennials.
Well, you guys aren't millennials.
Yeah, we are. We looked it up.
It's 1982 and after.
Now I'm not just the mother of 3 kids, I'm the mother of a movement.
Wow, he is getting famous.
Maybe I should just quit.
Can we just take 1 sec and laugh about how funny this is?
Maybe I just missed my wave.
You are so dumb.
What?
Chase is your wave.
Hey. This is Chase's assistant. I'm bringing him now. I love having a walkie. We must live every day like it's the last day that Chase is famous.
Hi, I'm looking to get jacked fast.
Chase Dreams. He's weirdly my brother.
I know. That's why I swipe right.
This is Chase Dreams' brother.
I can't believe Chase's first time getting drunk was in a club.
I'm so worried it's gonna ruin Chase's career.
Sometimes I feel like I'm the only one that's looking out for him.
How about this? We crash the plane.
Mom.
Not into a building, Carrie, into a field so only we die.
Mom, no.
This is the whole Dream family.
I'm gonna pose like a little pouty cow, and you're gonna take a picture and tag me.
I'm a gay icon.
Since when?
This morning.
We're hot, we're cool, and we're killing it. Okay, remind me, I need to find a guy to go home with tonight because I don't have a house.
I'm equally proud of both of you.
You two are very sexy people.
Thank you.
$200, you let me lick your foot?
Oh my God. Absolutely.
Everybody, please put your hands together for Heléne Yorke, Drew Tarver, Case Walker, Chris Kelly, and Sarah Schneider. Hi.
Hello.
Hey there.
Hi.
Congratulations are in order. You guys didn't just make a funny show, you made a really great show. I said in the green room, and I really meant this, it feels like watching 30 Rock in a lot of ways. It's exactly my brand of dark, cutting humor, but with an element of warmth that feels very comfortable, and like the people who make it are actually nice, even though the jokes can be quite
We
cutting
fooled
at times.
them.
Yeah, we fooled them.
You did.
They're all very
You
mean.
did.
Good job.
Let's talk about where this came from. The two of you were writing for SNL together, sort of co-head writers for a little while, right? When did the idea for this show come up, and when did you want to decide that you wanted to explore this side of non-fame?
I think, our last year?
Yeah,
SNL?
yeah. I think our second to last, we started talking about it, and then we kind of really dug in during our last season.
Yeah, and we wrote a lot of pop culture stuff at SNL. We wrote a lot of the music videos with the female cast, and so we just liked that world, and so I think we wanted to come up with an idea for a show that allowed us to still do that kind of stuff, but also still do more grounded storytelling. So writing a story about these two siblings who are adjacent to fame let us tell grounded stories and then still dip into that pop culture world.
And why this version of fame? What made you want to tackle this side of fame?
I think this world, we sort of had an idea of it, but once we dove into it for research purposes only, we were fascinated by it. He's his own thing.
Yeah. Well, and because
it's such a cool world that this younger generation has created for themselves, and they're the stars of it, and they're making empires, and that was all so interesting and fascinating to us, and so infuriating if that was your brother. And so we just loved that, putting that on these two.
Yeah, exactly. We liked the idea that, I mean, basically, we just talked a lot about how when you're young and you're in your 20s, and especially when you're creative, you're always comparing yourself to other people. You're always wondering if you're doing well enough. And we were trying to think, you're comparing yourself to other people. 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. Thanks, but you're always comparing yourself to other people. And we were like, what would
literally looking at all of you right now, comparing.
But we were like, what would be the worst other person to compare yourself to? And we were like, a much younger sibling. So that was like the most exaggerated version we could think of.
One of the ways that I like that you talk about his world is that you are sort of never condescending to the actual young people that are creating empires and are making the work in this world. It's all of these sort of older people that are leeching off of it or that are trying to condescend it or understand it, while Case's character Chase is kind of just operating within it and singing and actually building this career. When did you realize while writing it that it would make more sense to not kind of make fun of the kids who are actually doing this? Because I feel like most people would. They would attack the kids.
Yeah, I think it's easy to kind of like write them off and write this world off because we don't really know it. But we kind of felt the same way as Carrie's character in the show, where he's a little bit, he's an actor, he does theater, he feels a little bit above this world. And Helene's character, Brooke, gives him a talking to in halfway through the season. Is kind of like, you're not above this. You're doing something completely different, but that doesn't mean you should write this whole world off. And so we liked showing both perspectives on what they're up to.
Case, you're actually a part of this world. Do you ever offer notes or say like, no, that's not something that I would do?
So I have my opinions during the script, and I'll be like, actually, we need to change this number to this. Like, if it's like 1 million followers, I'm like, 1 million followers is not a lot. Chase needs to have like 40 million.
It's not?
No, yeah. So I changed some things in that world, and then we went into a small writing session before they started writing the show, and I went in and just told them all these stories, and it was fun seeing little clips of those within the season, and then sayings that I say. And
have you met managers like Ken Marino?
I wouldn't
who's
say,
amazing.
I wouldn't. Yeah, he does an incredible job. I haven't met anyone that extreme, but in a sense, yes, I've had some interesting experiences with some of my friends' managers. It's definitely it's all there. Yeah, it's pretty crazy what goes down sometimes. Yeah.
I do feel like you guys ground the show for the most part. Your struggles and what you're going through, as you said, sort of living in your 20s, are very, very relatable. How much do you see that as sort of your job on the show is to ground it in the midst of this completely surreal world that Case's character is going through?
It's so nice to hear you say we ground it when there's also so much crazy stuff that ends up happening with us as well. But what was so fun is that there were so many amazing things that came into the show and were introduced, like Ken Marino, Molly Shannon, Kate Berlant, Wanda Sykes, and being able to sort of play opposite all of the insanity that was happening. That I think is what brought a lot of the comedy forward.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing to sort of get to, because I come from like a sketch and improv background, and I haven't done a ton of acting without like a wig on and a mustache, being like, just being insane. So it was such a fun.
Does that not happen in this season? Because I was waiting.
No, it does.
There's a bit of a wig and a mustache moment while not being a wig or a mustache.
Drew's talking it down, but he does have some pretty rough looks in the back half of the season.
Yeah, the whole last half of the season, I'm humiliated by my whole look. It's an interesting thing to sort of go back, like, and be like, okay, I'm normal now. Okay, now I'm a little less normal. Okay, when am I full crazy yet? Have I lost my mind? So, and then at that, trying to figure out, how to act that, and like, when am I a little bit crazier than the person I was not as crazy as at the beginning of the season, was an interesting challenge.
Yeah, I feel like your character is always trying to maintain his sanity and prove that he's not crazy, and your character is kind of actually maybe just crazy at times.
I think she's just sort of looking at the world as like, okay, I'll do this now. And I think that a lot of that happens. You're talking about a coming of age type of thing, and I think that we come of age at so many different stages in our lives. And so for your late 20s, early 30s, to sort of feel like there's this opportunity to pivot in this insane way, to grab onto the opportunity like it's a boat, and you're just like, okay. And that's sort of where I think that my character comes at it from.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing, like in real life, where you meet someone who you think is nuts, and they're more successful than you, and they're like, you need to be a little more nuts, and maybe you'll be successful. And you go, all right, I guess I'm gonna be crazy. You take their advice.
Like, oh man, my life's even more of a mess.
Yes,
now.
yeah. I couldn't pull off this crazy.
There's a wonderful moment. I don't want to give too much away because the show isn't premiered yet, but there's a wonderful moment. I think it's like kind of midway through the season, maybe the 3rd or 4th episode, where your character kind of finally takes charge, and it's great to watch her suddenly have something that she wants and knows how to take charge of the whole situation. When did you guys as writers sort of realize that could be an arc over the course of the season, of this character sort of realizing some kind of potential?
Yeah, we like their arcs are kind of opposite in a way that we like. At the beginning, Helena is like grabbing onto the boat, as she said, and it's this big movie premiere, and she's like, hell yeah, it's a movie premiere. Like, I'm hot, I'm cool, let's do this. And Drew is a little more, reticent. He doesn't really want to lean into this world, and they kind of switch places-ish. Like, that's kind of their arc, and we liked discovering for her, when it comes to her little brother, she loves this world, but her love for him is stronger, gorgeous, and so it's like she is protective of him, and so I think that helps. That's kind of driving what her realizing what isn't maybe so fun and great and glamorous about this world, and he leans into it.
Well, when we decided that early on, when we wrote the pilot too, is because we said early on that we thought it would be really easy if they were jealous of their little brother, and their little brother was just like a little jerk, or he was a little asshole or something, or he was too good for them. But we liked that he loved them and looked up to them, and they really did care for him, and they were a little envious of his success, but they were protective of him and worried for him. And
which I imagine is actually much harder to write. Not sorry to interrupt you, but
yeah,
no. Adding those layers and making someone less of a villain or less of an obvious punchline is actually kind of more difficult to write.
Well, to Chris and Sarah's credit, that's what everybody's, I think, noticing as they experience the show, is that it is so much different than what you would expect this kind of a plot to turn into.
Well, but I also think if they were just jealous of their little brother, that makes it easier for the characters of Brooke and Carrie to be like, we're jealous of him, but he sucks anyway, so who cares? But they want to be a part of his life. So I think it actually is easier to write because it just gives you more to work with. You don't have to just play the jealousy note over and over again. You have like a deeper well of things to work with.
It was also very hard. We worked very hard on it.
It was a piece of cake.
It was very hard.
And easy.
Chris, prior to this, and while you were in your time at SNL, you directed a wonderful, I don't want to say indie film. It was a wonderful film.
It was very indie.
I know it was, but that
it was the indiest of indies.
That is a descriptor. Is kind of bothers me, but it's a wonderful film. It's very grounded. It's in a lot of ways a comic tragedy, but mostly just I think a drama. What was it like, sort of directing this? Was just like a heightened comedy in a lot of ways.
I guess it was similar directing it, in that it's still, the show's pretty grounded. I mean, like we were saying, there are more broad parts of the show, like Ken Marino's manager character, and a lot of the one episode characters are a little more heightened, but it's still pretty grounded, and we wanted it to feel that way. There's a little less crying, though not a lot. Drew cries in this show as much as the characters do in my movie.
Yep.
I was like, am I on Comedy Central?
Were you excited?
This feels like a tragedy.
To start crying? To go from doing mostly improv to crying?
Yeah, I mean,
gorgeously improv crying.
That's Drew Tarver from improv to crying.
Well, that's what made me cry. Was like, oh, I've been doing a lot of improv.
Yeah, we were like, just think about how many years you've been doing improv, and he would just start crying.
Just think about that Herald team. Think about that Herald.
Exactly.
Just go.
I had a lot to pull from.
Yeah, that last Herald did not come together.
No.
Just cry.
So I wept. Yeah, it was an interesting. I was. I had done nothing like that, and it was a cool thing to get to try out. And I mean, with Chris and Sarah, it was just so much. You guys made it so much easier because the writing's so good, and it was it was terrifying. I was scared, but you guys were so made it so much easier to sort of like go there and feel safe and feel understood and sort of protected.
Yeah, it's strange. I didn't know much about your background prior to watching it, and as I was watching it, I was thinking it's so great they got a dramatic actor to do this
Whoa.
show.
A real trick.
Oh my.
Drew, congrats.
I feel like I was too much of a compliment.
Yeah, it was.
But I really mean that. It didn't feel like I was watching someone play everything for big laughs. It felt like I was watching someone really ground all of the jokes as much as possible.
Thank you. Thanks. Yeah, I mean, I've always wanted to do something a little bit closer to myself, more grounded. And when this script came along, it just resonated with me so much. I mean, my little sister is a singer-songwriter and is more talented than me. And
really?
Yeah,
I'll vouch for that. We've done karaoke. She is.
Yeah, she like all of my siblings are like I'm the oldest, and they're all better than me in different ways. So I I was excited. It just really resonated with me when I read it. I was like, wait, do they know me? Are they making fun of me? So I was. It was very scary, but also I just felt very safe.
Okay, so was there a part of you that was worried that the show would be making fun of the world that you were sort of already a part of and were making your bones through?
Originally, yeah. So when I was going in for the auditions, I was like, wow, this is going to totally... Because when in the social media world, you get all the comments coming through, no filters. And so I'm like, oh, they're probably totally going to make fun of, my generation and everything going on. And honestly, I think like a lot of the stuff is pretty silly and you can make fun of it. Yeah, I thought that was going to be what was going to happen. And as we filmed the show and went into it, they really respected it. And you guys did a really good job of interpreting it in like this over-dramatic, funny way, but also, like admiring it because it's like a cool, different thing. And it was... they did a really good job.
Yeah, that's thanks. I mean, the thing that we kept in mind is we really didn't want to make fun of the people doing things, of like the kids making the stuff. We wanted more to make fun of the machine that gloms onto the kids making the stuff. So usually the jokes are at the expense of the managers or the agents or the team that's like shepherding these kids through all the different phases of their career.
Because the kids are actually like making work and being creative and practicing and working really hard.
Case is like shockingly like the best businessman I've ever met in my life.
Oh, no.
We do things like this and I'm always like, oh, good, Case is going to be there.
Yeah.
Because he's so articulate and smart in the way that he's like running his whole thing. You're like, you're a genius.
Case is our business manager.
We work for him.
Yeah. I think that this is very inappropriate, but like during the filming of it,
where's this going?
No, monetarily, you did, I think, a Dunkin' Donuts ad.
Yeah, I did a Dunkin' Donuts ad.
I texted him in the middle. I was like, "How much did you make for that Dunkin' Donuts ad? Can I get in on that?"
Wait, also we all were texting.
Like, I laughed so hard when I remember that. No, it was so funny.
Made Drew text.
I know you were like, I want to do a Dunkin' Donuts.
I had a post. I'd be like hashtag ad, and he was like, what is hashtag?
But no one wants.
Yeah, can I get a year
for Dunkin' Donuts?
I want a year of Munchkins.
No one wants to see a 32-year-old eat a Munchkin.
By the way, you guys, this is free. Dunkin' Donuts is really getting bang for their buck right now.
I love Dunkin' Donuts.
Did you get paid in Munchkins in a year of Munchkins?
Yes. Tons of donuts just showed up at my house every single day. No.
We mentioned Ken Marino. We've mentioned him a couple times. He's incredible in the show. It's a great Ken Marino character. Were you thinking of him when you wrote it, or did you write it and then we were like, oh, we should ask Ken Marino to do this?
Yeah, we weren't specifically, but then when we were like kicking around names, we hadn't really landed on anyone that felt right until I think Chris pitched him, and we were both like, oh, yeah, oops, we wrote this for him by accident. Like, we have loved him. We loved him in Party Down. We've loved him his Burning Love and Wet Hot. We just like are fans, and once we met with him, we kind of were like, oh, this unintentionally made complete sense for him. And
he just like filled in the blanks immediately. Like it just made perfect sense once we pictured his name.
That was the nice thing about casting him and casting some other character like Josh Segarra, who plays Brooke's boyfriend. Is we wrote those characters and we sort of wrote them surface level in the pilot just to get them into the show and introduce them, and they could have ended up that way or not really even been a major part of it. But both those actors, and Ken specifically, brings such a depth of like vulnerability and this like false bald confidence that's wrong, and so we could really write to those strengths through as we finished writing the season, and so he made that character so much more interesting by being it.
The dance episode with him is just so he's phenomenal in that episode, and the assembling of a possible boy band made me laugh so hard. There's like shots of those blank faces as he's telling them what they're gonna be. It's really great. Did you talk? I mean, he's named Streeter, I believe. Wasn't Justin Bieber's manager's named Streeter or something like that too?
Scooter. Not,
excuse me.
Absolutely not.
And clearly that's an inspiration.
We would just like to say that it is not based on him, just on camera.
Well, he's younger.
It's not really.
But did you have to talk to any of those guys to get a vibe, or did you see a couple interviews and you're like, oh, I got that?
I think we really didn't base it on any one specific vibe. The name Streeter is taken from a friend of ours who's a writer at SNL. But the main thing we just took away or tried to was kind of what Chris was talking before, was the idea of this like team behind a blank slate kid being like, here's what you're gonna be now, here's what you're gonna do now. And that just fascinated us, that dynamic between an adult man manager and a 14-year-old kid. Like they're clearly making the choices for him to pivot to sexy, him to pivot to cool.
And that's what made us also know that Ken Marino was gonna be so funny doing it, is because he is a man like pivoting this child all over the place for his career, but then also can cry at the drop of a hat thinking about how Chase is his best friend. So he brings that like dumb sweetness. I think he is Chase's best friend, and so we like. I don't know.
Well, Chase is his best friend.
Yeah, Chase is his best friend.
It's like over dramatic as Streeter's character is, he's also like so sincere, and like seeing that Ken playing that was just incredible. It was so funny how it worked out. It was great.
Yeah, and he's so trying to like desperately live vicariously through Chase as well. Like he so badly wants to be a 14-year-old boy band singer. Your character is, for all intents and purposes, a mess when we meet her and falling apart. I mean, we even see in the trailer, her boyfriend is like, you wear deodorant on the outside of your shirt all the time.
Right.
What is it like to play someone who's a mess?
Well, I have, the great fortune in my career to be really put in that hole a lot.
So sorry.
People really see me and they're like, you don't have it together. It's so fun because, even the opening when you meet the character, she's deflating an air mattress. And I don't know if anybody's deflated an air mattress before ever in your life, but you do have to use the entire weight of your body. And so just throwing around and doing that during the course of everything, of being that hot giant mess, I don't know. I think that there's really nothing better than that.
And she's a real estate agent when we meet her.
Yeah, she like represents one of those insane high rises that like only foreign people buy in and leave empty. Because like all of the high rises in New York, you're like, why are they dark all the time? That's why. And I think that what's fun about her being a mess in the beginning is that you do get to watch her put it together. And that therein lies, what I think made for me the entire job so fun, is that that can be so one-dimensional and it's explored much deeper. And again, that's a credit to Chris and Sarah.
Yeah, I'm wondering, do you guys have a method as writers to go the next layer, to find what the next step is so that it doesn't remain on the surface, that the jokes don't just come across as mean or cutting or taking apart something that is low-hanging fruit?
Yeah, I mean, well, we spent a lot of time before we actually wrote the episodes, like weeks just talking about what the season arc would be, so we knew where we wanted all the characters to end up. And obviously it's a comedy first, but we really wanted to make sure, I mean, we said this, but if you look at every episode description, it kind of sounds like a drama. So we wanted all the jokes to be based on the real characters, like insecurities or fears or anxieties, and how does Chase's fame exacerbate all that? So Chase becoming famous doesn't just make them jealous, but it makes Carrie have to deal with, why am I not famous? I've been trying to be an actor for years. It makes Carrie deal and come to terms with his sexuality in a way that he hasn't before. We also have joked about like what Heléne was just talking about. You said she's a hot mess at the beginning, but we also liked that when the season starts, she doesn't know she's a hot mess. Like Carrie's really kind of jealous that Chase becomes famous. But I think Brooke is like, whoa, Chase is famous, and also I'm a badass famous woman too. We're two, and like she almost is like, oh, Carrie's the other one. Like she doesn't realize that she's the other two. And then slowly but surely she's like, whoa, hold on, am I a loser? and then she starts to realize she needs to make a change. So yeah, we really spent a couple weeks at the beginning trying to make sure there was enough emotional depth there, so it wasn't just.
Thank you
like,
for
joke,
articulating
joke,
my
joke.
performance so much better than I was able to.
I think we have a question coming in from Twitter. The question is for Chris and Sarah. How much are the two main characters based on your own personalities? Do you guys know this person?
We sure
don't
do.
know. This is Andrew Sotomayor. This is a stranger to us.
We have no clue who he is.
I'm gonna answer the question.
I think the main takeaway from us as people is our comfort level with each other, the way that we talk to each other quickly, and like we wanted that dynamic to go onto them, but their exact characters are complete fabrications. We were never this pathetic. No, I'm kidding. I think that's the main takeaway was like we wanted to be able to write characters that we could just like write their dialogue and it would feel authentic and real.
Yeah, and then sometimes we would just be like, we would kind of tap into our like insecurities when we were in our 20s, or be like, what is the most embarrassing thing you did on a date, or like little things like that. Yeah. And completely separate from this person, I will just say that the makeup for our show is incredible, and whoever did it did a
But it has
wonderful
nothing
job.
to do with
Nothing
that
to do with the
person.
question that was just asked. I just would also like to say that.
I think we have a question from the audience as well. Who has a? Oh, right here. Hi.
Hello. I have a question for Chris and Sarah. I wanted to know how much changed between the initial first draft of the pilot through what we're going to see on Comedy Central, if anything changed.
Ooh, good question. I haven't gotten that before.
The boyfriend, right? Brooke's
Yep.
boyfriend?
Yeah, that's a big one. Yeah, we
Yeah.
completely rewrote the part of Lance. He existed, but we rewrote him for the actor that we ended up casting for him. He was very different. He worked at medieval times and was kind of like a nerdier vibe, and we rewrote that completely.
Yeah, Josh Segarra, who ended up playing the boyfriend, came in for a different part, and we just thought he was so funny and so specific, and funny in a way we hadn't really seen before, but instantly felt real. I don't know how to describe it. Yeah. And we just liked him so much, so we rewrote a different part for him. And then sort of like, we're just gonna make him a huge part all season long because we just loved the actor so much. So that was the biggest change.
And then of course, like there were location issues, so we had to like rewrite where some scenes took place. She was originally heard the scene in the pilot. She is like working out in the apartment building's gym undercover, and we originally had her swimming in the apartment building's pool undercover because we just thought a long black wig in a pool would be disgusting and look like The Ring, and we thought that would be a good introduction to her. And
his name was different, right?
That too. Oh yeah,
Pool, right?
Pool, yeah.
Pool.
Yeah, just a lot of like little production
things
changes.
like that.
Yeah, Chase Dreams was not, it was Chase Life.
It was
Remember, it was
Life.
Chase Life was his name? And then we couldn't get it for legal reasons or something, and now Dreams is so much better
there
to
is
me.
a Chase Life.
There was like a mid-30s rapper or something.
And this is not connected to that, obviously.
Yeah, no.
But we randomly, someone was like, you can't call it this, and so now he's Chase Dreams.
Guys, I love the
Thank you for your
show
question.
so much. Congratulations on the performances and the wonderful writing and direction. It's a really fantastic show. The first episode is online right now, right? People can see it, or was it?
I think it was, and now it's gone.
Sorry.
Sorry.
But the show is premiering tonight.
Unfortunately, no.
7 days.
So sorry.
6 or 7 days.
You can't see the show. You can never see the show. They're not. No.
Actually, a week from today.
A week from today.
On Comedy Central.
On Comedy Central at 10:30.
After Broad City.
Yeah, after Broad City.
I have watched 4 or 5 episodes already. I can't wait to watch the rest of them. It's so great. Such a wonderful show. Congratulations. Give them a huge round of applause.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.